In this video,
We're going to talk about the top 5 concerns about buying property.
in the Philippines.
And we also have some new information about buying property that we want to share with you. So stay tuned. So number 1 on this list has to be titling, tax declaration, and then have an approved subdivision plan if indeed your lot that you want to buy is in a subdivision. You agree, right?
I agree with that.
It is a challenge, guys, making sure that when you're looking at a piece of property that you are able to transfer that title easily to your Filipinas name. We've been 2 for 2, once in Leyte and once here in Darwin, and I think it's just because we were picky and we were very, very cautious.
Well, you had to be, you know.
Yeah, you have to be cautious. So the bottom line is when you look at a piece of property, and if you're with the owner of the property or so-called owner, or a realtor, the first thing you should do is when you look at the property for the first time, ask them to bring a copy of the title with them. That would be the first red flag.
Yes, it's very important because we did that in Leyte.
We did that all the time.
Yeah.
So when we looked at a piece of property, we would say to the realtor, the agent, or the owner, please bring a copy of the title. If they didn't, we knew something was up.
Yeah.
The next thing you should do is when you look at that title, look at the name or names that's on that title and ask the person that you are buying the property from, is it the same person? Because many, many times the person's name on the title is not the person that you're dealing with.
No, it's not. That happened to us a lot of times.
It happened a lot, and they call it a mother title or whatever the case may be, because here in the Philippines, it happens a lot where the property owner could be passed away or could be in another country, and a family member or an heir is attempting to sell the property for that person. That should be a red flag, especially if the person's name on the title is passed away. Big red flag. You should probably walk from the property just because there is big risk. So if you're really picky like us, you ask for the title and ask if that person is actually alive and you're dealing with that specific person. It's very, very important. Also, Wilma and I have experience where we would look at a piece of property and ask for the title, and they'd only bring a tax declaration, not the actual title. And then they would say, "Oh, this is good enough. As long as the property taxes is paid, it's recorded properly with the municipal, and you'll be able to transfer the property." A tax declaration is very different from an actual title for the property.
Yes.
It's good to check and make sure that the taxes have been paid, so it's not a problem having a copy of it. But if they tell you they only have the tax declaration, that is another no-no and a red flag.
Yeah.
For sure. The third thing with the paperwork is you hear it all the time here, especially in Darwin, where they are saying that there is a subdivision with the property, meaning the property is a larger chunk. Say it's 10,000 square meters, and they're going to break it up in 1,000 square meter pieces. And then you hear them say, "Oh, sir, you can pick any lot you want. You can arrange it any way you want. If you want 1,500 square meters instead of 1,000. Well, right off the bat, that's another red flag. Because if there was a proper subdivision plan and it was already approved, not only would it be surveyed, the actual boundaries of your piece that you're going to buy has been clearly defined with a proper right of way.
Yes, we call them Mahon.
Yeah, Mahomes.
Yeah.
So if the Mahomes for your property is not set in place, as well as the distinct amount of land that has been approved,
And there should be a map, like with this property.
right?
They provide us with the map.
Correct.
And the approved subdivision paperwork.
Right. There should be a clear road. There should be clear property separation, and then that subdivision should be already approved. So of course you would go hand that to your attorney to get checked, but we did a double check. We took the approved subdivision because once we knew that this property was within a subdivision, not only did we ask for a copy of the title and tax declaration, we asked for a copy of the approved subdivision plan. So we had those 3 documents that we turned over to our attorney, but we also went to the municipal, which happened to be Dowen,
Yeah.
and we had a meeting with the municipal engineer to verify that the property could be built upon, meaning that the subdivision was indeed approved and it was ready to go. So very, very important. The title, tax declaration, and if it's a subdivision, that the subdivision is not in process, it has been approved. Having your attorney check up on that, as well as you, as the potential buyer, going to the municipal, having that discussion with the municipal engineer and asking them specifically if the subdivision has been approved. Very, very important that you do those 3 things. So let's say that the property that you're looking at does have all the paperwork in order. You did all your checks as well as your attorney. The next step is to make sure that the property has a good source of utilities, specifically electricity and water. So that's something you just need to walk around the area, take a look at where your transformer is. Does the property have utility poles leading to it? And if not, are you going to be responsible to install your own poles? Because more than likely, the electric company will not do that for you. You'll be responsible to pay and have those utility poles installed.
That can be expensive.
Can be expensive. And people buy property and say they got a great deal, but then they don't realize there's a lot of other hidden costs that when once done with that, it basically costs as much as a more expensive piece of property that has everything done for you, and you don't have all the stress of making it happen. So a good source of electricity and a good source of water. Regarding electricity, do you have primary power coming to that lot, or is it secondary power? So primary power means you can have your own transformer, so you have good, clean electric coming to your property. If that's not important to you and it's just secondary power, just realize that you'll be sharing a transformer with a lot of homes, and it's just the way it is here in the Philippines. They do overload the transformers, so you hear a lot of locals say that when somebody welds, your power goes in and out of your house.
Yeah.
And then you also hear all the time that the locals, when they use their electronic device, when they're done with it, they unplug it, which is something that you don't do in your first world country.
No.
And the reason for that is everyone always blames the electric company for the surges, but that's not necessarily true. We don't have surges at our home because we have primary line with our own transformer, so we have clean 220 coming into our home or to our house. If you have secondary power, you're going to be sharing that transformer with multiple people, and if it's overloaded, then you can have trouble and have less than 220 come in, and that's when your electronics can be damaged.
Yes, your refrigerators and whatever it is that you have on your home.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Secondly, is a good source of water. Typically, you'll have municipal water in the area, or you're going to have to drill a well, one or the other. If you're up in a mountain at high elevation, drilling a well may not be an option because you may have to go too deep. So it's very, very important before you buy a piece of land, you need to check on where the water source is coming from. Is it a good source of water? Is it continuously flowing? Because we've had experience, especially in Leyte, where the water would be on one day, off the next, or it would be on for 4 or 5 hours a day and then off for the rest of the day. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, that was horrible.
It was frustrating, right?
Yes, because we had to have that big buckets to store water,
Right.
so you don't run out of water.
Yeah, it was definitely frustrating. You go to do laundry or go to wash the dishes, you turn on the spigot, no water,
Yeah.
because they turned it off from say 12 to 5 p.m. You just don't have any water every single day. So do those checks. Make sure there's municipal water heading to your property. It's a good continuous source. And again, you can go to the municipal and talk to that engineer. Every municipal has their own plumber who has an office in that building and have those conversations. Now, here's the new information that we want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
We have been told through a pretty good source that here in the Philippines, they are reluctant to approve new subdivisions, meaning someone has a larger piece of property and they want to divide it up and sell it to individuals to build their own homes, a subdivision. They're reluctant to issue additional approvals for subdivisions because there's so much building going on in the Philippines. They're concerned about running out of water. So we don't know what municipals are involved in what areas of the Philippines, but we've heard more and more where certain municipals are having those discussions now. And we've heard it from a reliable source that if the subdivision has already been approved, you're okay. But if it's a new subdivision that's in the process and you're being told by the realtor the person owns, I'll buy the property, everything is good to go, you can transfer the title, the subdivision will be approved in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, it may not happen because of not having enough water. Very, very important that you verify that before you turn over any money. All right, next up is concern number 3. The road leading to your property. Is it concrete or is it a dirt road? Often when people hear of, oh, there's a great deal on property, the cost per square meter is lower than the norm, more than likely it's because it's on a dirt road. So that's a concern. And I'll give you an example. We looked at a piece of property here in this area with a realtor, and the owner was there. And it was a nice piece of property, but it was about 2 kilometers, so almost a mile on a dirt road. The price was fair, but it was a dirt road. Some people don't mind, but Wilma and I did care about driving long distances on a dirt road. You beat up your vehicle and it's very dusty.
No, especially when it rains, it's all flooded, you know.
It floods and it's muddy.
Yeah, it's muddy.
Yeah, it's definitely muddy. And you know how I like to keep my truck clean, so we try to stay away from dirt roads. So the person who owned the property assured us, sir, the road is going to be concreted by the barangay within 6 months,
Sure.
guaranteed. You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
It was more than once we heard it, but real specifically in this area. Now, that was back in March of 22.
22, yes.
It is now September of 23. The road has not been touched. So if someone tells you, either the real estate agent or the owner of the property, that, oh, this is a barangay road, and it's gonna be cemented really, really quick. And as soon as the road is concreted, the price of your property is gonna skyrocket and you're gonna be making money. Don't believe it, because it rarely happens. Not that it won't happen, but it's going to take a long, long time. You could be living there 5 years and it's still gonna be a dirt road. So that's something to consider as well. Concern number 4, your neighbors, or should I say potential neighbors. Very, very important that you look into that, because there's not much you're going to do about your neighbors after you move in and build your home. So if you look at the property on a Tuesday, midday, everything is quiet, you may think that it's going to be quiet all the time. Not necessarily true.
No.
So what Wilma and I did after we saw the property with the realtor, we came up here 2 additional times before we made an offer
Yeah.
in the evening. And one of the nights was Saturday night, because the work week here in the Philippines is typically Monday through Saturday. So Saturday night is usually the party night.
Yeah.
So what we did was we come up here at dusk and we just kind of walked up on the property and just walked around for a half hour and listened. So you should do that as well. Show up at the property at different times. See if your neighbor has a piggery or loud music or partying all the time, or karaoke bars right next door. You know, it's something to consider. Make sure that you are visiting the property on off hours to make sure it's going to be as quiet as you think it's going to be. That one is very important. Last but certainly not least is having proper access to your property.
That is very important.
Definitely important. So what I mean by that is, off the barangay road, hopefully it's a cement road, do you have direct access to your property? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, you're good to go. But do you have a right of way? Or do you need to get a right of way? So if you have a right of way already built into the subdivision, make sure that that is written into your deed so there's no problems in the future. If there is no right of way and you need to gain a right of way, that's a concern. So before you turn over any money, make sure that you're going to be able to access your property. Not only that, access to your property for the builder. A lot of these roads are very small, and is the supplies, meaning the truckloads of cement and blocks and all the different building material that needs to get to the property, can the trucks make it to the property during the build? You have to think about that. So that's also important as well. So hopefully these 5 concerns will help you guys in your search. Guys, take it slow. Make sure that you're doing things very thoroughly. Don't take one person's word as gospel. Have a good attorney. If you have an architect, get your architect involved, as well as we recommend going to the municipal, and that's what we did, and had a relationship early on with the municipal engineer and having all these building conversations like, hey, once we buy this specific lot, are we able to have permits quickly? And that person would have no problem looking up that specific lot, because you were given the title, you were given the tax declaration, you were given the approved subdivision. So you have that paperwork up front before you turned over any money and showed it to the engineer. More than likely, that engineer is going to say, oh yeah, I know that property very well, because they live here and they're in the business. That's when you can start having the conversations and
Yes.
saying, hey, I'm thinking about having a pool. Is it okay for me to build a pool on this property? Yes or no? That's the person to ask, because that's still another concern. You may be able to build a house, but maybe you will not be approved for a pool, and you never thought of that up front. You already paid for the property, and now you're going to be very disappointed. So all those things need to be done up front, and we highly recommend going to the municipal and establishing a relationship with the municipal engineer. So I hope this video helps you guys, and we appreciate you guys watching.